Welcome to It's Happening, the show, community grassroots media for the people, by the people. I'm Jose Gloria.
I'm Dylan Thompson, your host tonight.
You're your host, indeed.
Indeed. Okay, it's going to be one of those shows.
What you say?
Oh, okay.
It's happening. The movement of the heart and of the mind. It's the energy of the universe that creates waves inside us and all around us, which allows us to activate, motivate, and elevate vibrationally and intellectually towards love, truth, justice, and wisdom. It's happening in every which way.
It's happening. It's a culture of empowerment. It's people having the right to exist and participate as equals. It's a dream of what the world could be, but the future we want is only possible if we make it happen. So stand up, get informed, and fight back.
Hey, fight. That's right. You could be anywhere right now in the world right now, but you're here with us, so we thank you. Because of you,
it's happening.
It's
yeah, you could kind of be anywhere in the world right now with Zoom. You know what I mean?
You really can.
Pretty much, it's even more true now than when we wrote this years ago.
True. This is true. Going on 6 years, is it? Or
6
7
years. Oh, I can't tell anymore. What's our anniversary? Yeah. Yes.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining us. If it's your first time, we thank you in particular. the top fans like Don Benjamin and others. Thank you for joining us.
Mhm.
Today, uh, I'm rocking my Miriam Lopez, rest in peace, in memoria shirt, a little button. So yeah,
There you go.
rest in power, sister. Um, so I want to go ahead and talk about everything and anything to this week. We've had a couple weeks since we've been on, right? So there's
Yeah.
just been so much.
Yeah, it's
But
been
for example, Subway was sued for not having tuna in their tuna sandwiches. Broke my little heart. Whenever I would go to Subway, I'm like, how can I eat
Oh no.
really healthy? It's like, well, let's just go with tuna. And
My God, I really liked the tuna. I hadn't even heard that. This is breaking for me. So wow, that's a shock. I don't know if I can do the show, but go ahead.
you
Ugh.
will you will try.
Wait, what was it?
It was just some
Soy?
yeah, just like different things and stuff like and ingredients that trick your brain into thinking that it's fishy, or maybe it
That
was
it's
other
fishy.
type of fish but not tuna, and they made it taste like tuna. Anyways, that's alleged. So they're going to court because
Alleged.
Subway says no way it's real tuna. Yeah, and then Elon Musk.
That's their new slogan, by the way. Yeah, go ahead.
Subway,
No way.
it's really tuna. No way. Is this real? Elon, speaking of, is this real? Elon Musk celebrates a monkey that got a microchip implanted into its brain that allowed it to play video games.
Wow.
And he described the monkey as a very happy monkey. So
I relate to that minus the microchip. Totally relate to that.
they're like, can I get a microchip? And that way I can own everybody.
Oh yeah, finally.
I don't know. What's the cool thing right now? Rust belt or belt rust or yeah.
One of these games these kids are playing.
Yeah, this little thing. I don't know. They still playing like Super Mario. Is that a thing?
It is. Weirdly, it is. Yeah.
Sonic the Hedgehog. Is that what the kids play these days? I don't know. I'm very confused.
Yeah. Let us know, audience.
Yeah. Today, Screech, the artist formerly known as Screech, Dustin something. I forgot his name. Screech. That's what we all know him as. Rest in peace. Passed away at 44 years old today. Yeah. So yeah, it's my childhood, man. Like I love that guy. Grew up with him. When I wake up in the morning and I'm in bed. Y'all get it. Yeah. So,
You know. But yeah, aren't we back in the purple zone in
We
California?
are. Therefore, stay-at-home order has been lifted.
Yeah. Let's spike begin. Yeah, but also I guess street sweeping tickets in Santa Ana are going to resume tomorrow.
Ooh.
So yeah, sorry, they gave you a little brief hiatus on that, but
Yeah, I did see they were going around with and giving fake tickets, warning tickets last week.
okay.
Kind of just getting people like little scare.
Okay.
I wonder because I saw it and then I'm like, how many people actually paid this ticket? And it's like $60.
Yeah,
right?
it's a good amount. Yeah.
A lot of money.
Yeah, yeah, this annoys me. It's just because, like, well, okay, the city's like, well, we planned a situation where it's like necessary for a lot of people to get these tickets just because the parking's so overcrowded. I feel like it's like, can we extend this a bit more, or we need a more proactive strategy for solving like the parking issue. It's just like, so we just fine our way into what? Where does that money even go? So I don't know.
Yeah.
Subject for another show.
Agreed. Yeah, we'll have to have the mayor, Santana, Vicente Sarmiento, to come on. We'll answer to this. I want answers. I will not be silenced. Yeah. So that's going to be coming up in a week or so.
All right.
Fine tune. So that'll be a good conversation. Talk about all the things happening, and of course, what more is happening in all things COVID at this moment. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and jump into our top stories, shall we?
Top stories.
Insert graphic here, Edgar.
Buttons.
Yeah, so with Dylan Thompson.
Oh, well, it has been a little while since we did the show, and everyone's heard of the GameStop kind of stock market story.
GameStop.
GameStonk. Yeah. I have no idea. I didn't do that much research, but what but what I can tell you is like this is kind of being painted as like a I mean, I hate to say it, but Robin Hood or a little guy's victory over the giant hedge funds. I mean, what was happening is like, especially because of the pandemic, a lot of businesses are expected to fail, and so you can short the stock and basically just gamble that it'll go down and you'll make money.
Right.
Confusing how that works. I mean, maybe again, subject for another show. Seems suspicious. I understand like investing, and then a small business gets a loan, and then they create something in the economy that's useful.
Yeah.
But I don't understand. Wait, how does short selling benefit our economy as a whole, or is it just like a Las Vegas style gambling thing? I mean, I actually don't know enough, and I'd love the audience to chime in on that, or we can talk about that more another time. But yeah, so this is almost like the leftists want to paint this as like, yeah, the people are taking over. It's a blow to capital. But it's kind of like this Reddit group or Discord group, these different groups. They are, they're just ordinary guys. It doesn't seem political, right? It's actually about they're into Wall Street. They know about this stuff, and this was a strategy they devised to get money. And because they're saying, oh, dude, they're vulnerable. Like we have a move here. Like if we go in mass using Robinhood, that's the app they used, right?
Right.
But yeah, anyway, there's a huge drama about this, especially Robinhood banning the buying of these stocks for now. I don't know if they've rescinded that yet, but basically disabling people's ability to reproduce a similar situation to exploit Wall Street's gambling for their own benefit. And they're like, whoa, no, Cole, please. This is like polo. Okay, do you have a thoroughbred horse to play? Like, I mean, what is your ELO here? What is your ranking here? Like, it's an elitist thing where it's like only they get to be reckless and gamble, speculate on the market, right? And even these, say, Melvin Capital, they lost 53% of their value from this, right? So they basically lost $6 billion of value because they were gambling recklessly, right? But it doesn't matter because a pair of billionaire investors are swooping in to support that short-selling hedge fund. It's Steve Cohen's Point 72 and Ken Griffin's Citadel. Our partners are plowing a total of $2.75 billion into Melvin Capital. So it's like they're even getting a bailout from their own like business partners or people they know, or I don't know what the logic is there, but I mean they're propping this game up that they want to keep playing. And making it so the little guy can't. So I don't know. Maybe I said too much on this already.
No, that I think that basically breaks it down. A lot of people first heard about like shorts or shorting stocks through The Big Short, the movie, right? This is the way in which the gentleman, the one played by by the dude that played Michael Scott. What's his name? Anyway,
Steve Carell.
Yeah. So or no, it wasn't him. It was the other. It was Christian Bale. So this is the way that people are able to gamble on it, and so the whole question is like, well, should you be able to even do that, like to place that kind of bet on it? And so that is a big question now. And when the billionaires were doing it, and the hedge fund managers were making all their killing, while and putting out these signals out to reporters and stuff to tilt, like public opinion against certain stocks. And then they could do that. But then all of a sudden these folks, in this Reddit subgroup called, what was it called?
Wall Street Bets or
Wall Street Bets. Yeah. They were able to coordinate, but then that's when the whole question comes, did they collude? And if so, like, are they to be held responsible? But yeah, Robinhood then stopping the purchases of these stocks, then again sued. Is kind of and then the backlash against them, that the app that allows you to buy stocks, Robinhood. It's just kind of like every day is a saga, and we will look back on history and study this and how it started and how it was done. Because this is pretty much like a big like uppercut, like a gut shot at the capitalism and the people that usually get to play and with these rules and win, by manipulating the rules, manipulating the market. In this case, the little guy is. But I've seen a lot of stuff, even on PBS, people saying like, "Oh, this is terrible. We shouldn't be, championing this. This is, outrageous." I'm like, like in the great words of Bernie Sanders, "Oh, cry me a river," like, yeah. Oh, for heaven's sakes! I have to get my my Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, working on it.
You gotta screw the 1%. We don't care about them. The little people. I support them. All right. So yeah, a lot more to be said. I'm sure we'll talk with our guest in a bit.
Oh yeah, big time.
About this and so much more. But yeah, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah,
a lot of people.
Oh yeah, just a really brief tie into some other trends that are the Discord for the Wall Street bets was banned for like a day because they were saying apparently there was an existing conflict between the Discord and moderators, that there was like things that were outside of the agreement on their Discord, and like I think the popularity of this happening caused it to them like crack down, but kind of under the same kind of terms that other like big tech companies can arbitrarily choose to do these things, kind of, because they could have done it before, but then when it becomes a problem, it's like, okay, then definitely, like, we'll deal with it. But they could have done it before, they didn't, right? It's only when it had an effect they could shut it down. But I mean, they did bring it back up the next day with agreements to do the moderation, so at least it wasn't totally disingenuous. Anyway, so Discord coming back on that one, I guess.
Yeah. Well, more. Well, yeah. This one is like until the next chapter. We're gonna see how it works out. But people are like, hold the line, do not sell, bleed the MFers dry, and but we'll see. We'll see how it ultimately turns out. But one thing is for sure: people are losing their minds and they're losing millions of dollars by trying to tank GameStop, which GameStop, I've gone there a couple times. God help me, I saw all these children, all these video game addicted children, like nagging at their mothers to buy them whatever, and I'm
having flashbacks.
Yeah. Thank God I've not had children. God knows we don't need any more video game addicts in the world. We have enough. Anyways, moving on to the top story of 2019 or 2020, the end of 2019, 2020, and probably for the rest of our lives. COVID-19. So this is an issue still. The vaccines are out. People are getting vaccinated, not quick enough. It's been quite the boondoggle. But to add more pressure to these things is the fact that a higher percentage of people are dying from this disease. So as appears, LA Times wrote about rapid spread of UK coronavirus variant in Southern California sparks alarm. The spread of the highly contagious coronavirus variant, first identified in Britain, is sparking worry about future surge in Southern California, in one of the nation's two hotspots of the strain. Scientists say it is essential to keep coronavirus transmissions low and to ramp up vaccinations quickly. If the variant spins out of control, hospital systems could again become overwhelmed. Variant known as B117 has been identified in 167 people in 32 states.
Sounds like a killer robot. Jeez.
I am B117. I will destroy the world.
Your cells will be eliminated. Okay.
Yeah, no, but funny, but not as funny, and quite tragic. And so yeah, there's just been a lot of kind of talk about the situation that is quickly getting into another hiccup on the way towards going back to normal. Back to the matter, we still need to social distance. We need to still wear our masks. We need to keep our indoor gatherings with other people at a minimum. Because this one is more contagious, and it can potentially be more dangerous. And what Dr. Fauci, many other people have been saying, the more contagious you have, the more ability that you give the virus to continue to mutate. And so then that therefore we have these variants that doesn't mean that the vaccines are not going to be able to, to also, attack it and not let it overwhelm you. But it does also mean that you could, you know, it will be more of a trouble and longer our way towards really getting on top of it, as opposed to like being behind, this virus and the pandemic, because variants are a problem, and so which will then make it for more vaccinations and more antibody shots and other things to add onto the vaccine. But I don't know, my grandma got vaccinated. It took her way too long. She's like above 65. I was like really frustrated with the website. But anyways, I know that there's a lot of frustration out there, and but also people and of course white people going to like indigenous communities and getting vaccinated because they can afford to and claim that they're native and stuff. Crazy.
Oh God.
Yeah. But
More
also
to come.
situations like where people like there was I think a truck that was carrying vaccines to a destination, and then the truck broke down, or like the cooling system. So then they got out and they started vaccinating people on the road, literally like they're gonna expire. So boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. I guess that's pretty much what you got to do. I mean, or the opposite in this story where anti-vaxxers briefly shut down the Dodger Stadium vaccination site over the weekend, or it was according to the police. And I mean, it wasn't as confrontational as like, maybe the headline suggests. It's like the police really just closed the gate out of an abundance of caution, because there are a lot of demonstrators out there with signs saying like that COVID's a scam and blah blah blah. And it's kind of fascinating, because it's like these people are really trying to help, and it's just like a fascinating subculture like that. It would be interesting to know. I'm sure there are going to be plenty of documentaries about this time, coming out. And but that's the reality we're in, guys. So careful out there.
Yeah, no, I can't with these anti-maxers, QAnon people. I'm glad we don't have to talk about Trump anymore. That is one thing. But I will mention that like Trump's has spawned some new crazies, and the talk of the town in DC, of course, is Marjorie Green, or whatever the heck her name is. So then everybody's losing their mind because she's a QAnon supporter, and she wants to kill Nancy Pelosi for treason. The Jewish aliens directed a laser to start the fires in California. Just the usual run-of-the-mill crazies type of stuff that we come to expect from Congress people. No, this is insane. So people are trying to get her removed from being in the education committee. It's like this person literally said that Sandy Hook was a false flag operation. Then she went on TV and said it's not a red flag operation. What, red flag?
Huh? What? Is that a new thing? I don't know. No.
All right. Well,
it's like a red pill, blue pill kind of thing. Whatever.
Yeah, but that's what we have to. That's what the CNNs of the world and have to rely on now. It's like, oh, who can stir up some controversy? Well, this woman surely has.
Indeedly do.
Last top story.
Well, just do another tech story. We'll look back on this time. Like I feel like this. Well, let me tell you the headline first. But it's that Amazon, Alphabet, and I believe that's the parent company that probably owns say Google or some other large tech company, and Salesforce are all investing in a $28 billion company that crunches big data. So it's software that helps company do artificial intelligence models against big data sets. And, apparently, according to this article, Amazon is not known to do this kind of investment in late stage startups. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I feel like this is going to be this, in the Matrix, they do a little pretext, a little kind of introduction information about the past, how we got to where the robots took over. I mean, this is definitely one of the first steps, is investing billions and billions of dollars by by these large tech conglomerates into these AI models that, I mean, the crazy thing about these AI models is that when there is a correlation in like the data between some predictable outcome, it'll find it. And it could be something that humans have not even considered yet, or something that, because the data set is so big, like this even ties into like Robinhood, because a big problem with that app is they're saying like, hey, you're going to be free, like make your own financial choices and, you know, educate yourself financially. But on the flip side, your access to through that app says that they get all of your analytics data. And so they can figure out how you trade, what you're thinking about, how you set up your account. All of these are just data points. They don't even care to analyze it themselves. They can just throw it into a giant database and then pay, like when this company's technology comes to fruition, these AI technologies improve, they can make incredible insights about us, like that we have not been able to do before with such accuracy, right? So yeah, I mean, the robots are coming. So
They sure are.
yes. Salute.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of bipartisan support around being able to rein in some of the power of these big corporations like Facebook or Amazon that are, you know, using our data and to basically make little sheep out of us, little consumer sheeps, little cash cows that just feed us what, you know, they want us to eat, and we, you know, just give them they want until they're no good for it. We're no good to them, and then they chop us up and eat us. Yeah.
Metaphorically,
just like the Matrix. Yeah, I'm concerned. Everybody should be concerned, but then we're not that much concerned because we're still using the platform. Yeah. So there's that. We desperately need better alternates that allows us to have more control over data, or as some has suggested, have, you know, a stipend basically that these companies pay, you know, for, you know, us to, you know, to be able to use these things, you know, over a year or whatever over time. Something.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Right. We need it. Give me some more stimmy checks so I own the hedge fund managers. Man.
Hit me.
Stimmy.
Yeah, stim me up. I'm gonna gamble.
Woo!
Ow! Yeah, $2,000 checks, baby. Give me $2,000 checks.
All right, and with that, I want to bring on to the show. He's been on previously, friend of the show, Socrates Cruz.
Oh.
Socrates Cruz is an artist, activist, and vagabond, originally from Costa Mesa, California, and Orange County. He's a graduate of Harvard College, where he studied political history. In 2020, he worked on the Bernie Sanders campaign as a national advance staff. He's currently living in rural Vermont, in the middle of the Green Mountains, where he spends his time chopping wood, playing music, and staring off into the sunset. Oh. Welcome to the show, Socrates.
Woo!
How's it going? That's quite a bio there. Did you write that?
I mean, I kind of took the previous one you had given me and just added some flair. But cool. You know, you have been doing a good amount of wood chopping, right? So that's not too far off.
Yeah. I stopped a little while ago because there's too much snow now, but wood chopping is fun for sure.
What else do you do? In
shoveling, it sounds like.
I started doing some cross-country skiing. That's fun.
Oh, okay. There you go.
That hurts your butt. It's good. It's good exercise.
Nice.
It's a glute exercise.
Shoveling a lot of snow. It took me like 2 days to shovel my car out one day. That was fun.
Wow.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good times, you know.
Good times. Sure, it's like, you know, freaking sunny ass California.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's fine. I mean, you just bunker down. It's okay. It's good for now, you know. But right now I'm in a little mannequin factory in New Orleans. So.
Oh, wow.
Damn.
Yes. So it's a little break from the snow for a bit.
That's good, man. So you've been globetrotting. You know, you've been kind of just you know, vagabonding it, I guess, right? But you've also been doing DJing, and you know, but you're a country boy now. So like, what?
Just a country boy.
You know, what do you have to say about the state of the world now?
Yeah, I'm not from California anymore. I'm a Vermonter, apparently. No, no. I still have my Cali plates on my car, which are it's pretty funny driving that out
100%.
in Vermont.
Yeah, you can say hi to
But
Berg.
I wear a Vermont hat and a camo hat, so that makes me blend in more, I think. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't get pulled over as often.
Italian
when I wear a
passive,
camo hat.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm good. Things are good. I mean, it's weird, right? Like, it's definitely, obviously, a very chaotic time, to say the least. I think it's important for people to kind of like take some time and tune out every once in a while, to be honest. Like, I think there's an overabundance of shit going on, really. And I think it's weird. I was thinking about this the other day. We've kind of normalized this idea of every little bit of information being critical breaking news, which it really isn't. You know, there was a time where you had to fucking like literally report and like analyze the information, and then 24 hours later, maybe you have a better sense of the story, and that's when it gets published. Right now, because everything is tweeted constantly, like, we keep getting, it's just very erratic. I think people are getting information very erratically, and they're not really understanding things as well as maybe they should. I think that adds to a lot of the polarization. I think obviously CNN, MSNBC on one hand pushing their talking points, and then Fox News pushing their talking points exacerbates that for sure as well. So that's I've been thinking a lot about that, and honestly, like, I try to not really watch any 24-hour news anymore, because it's basically just theater. It's, you know, like, Jake Tapper is not really a journalist; he's just a guy reading a script. You know, Van Jones and these other people on there, like, who are they, right? They're obviously getting paid a lot of money to push certain talking points, and they have their convictions, and they're coming out of certain past administrations, and they're protecting their own legacies and looking, you know, to protect their own job prospects as well. So yeah, I think a lot of people are, so that's one side of it, obviously. Then you have the other side, which is like the Twitterverse, and a lot of like memes and a lot of like bits of information that keep coming out. And it's good. I think, you know, it's good to take it, but take it for what it is, right? It's not 100% journalism. Some of it is, but like, people just read headlines. They don't dive deep into the actual context of some of these stories. And then it's, you know, then I think that's when people start developing, over time, they develop these big conspiracies. And because the world seems so chaotic, it's easy to like kind of fall for a lot of more conspiracy theories that are, you know, people are convinced that that someone is in control, as opposed to maybe things are just really chaotic and people are in positions where they can exploit that and benefit from it, which is, I think, how things always work, right?
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think people can latch on in that chaos to just any conspiracy and feel better. But I mean, they're on to something that something's off. I think they're just incorrect about exactly what the details are. And I don't know. Well, speaking of conspiracy theories, how about Joe Biden's administration? How's it going? Because have you tuned out that much? Are you following that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I joke sometimes that I get my news from memes now, but I think so. Biden is, I think, I'm not surprised by anything that Biden has done. I'm not expecting to be surprised by anything he does. A lot of, you know, obviously one of the big stories that came out in the first couple of days was like Keystone. He canceled the Keystone pipeline, right? And people were like, "Oh, okay, he's going to prove us wrong." Well, I'm going to wait and see, right? There was a big story back with Obama when Standing Rock was going on, and a bit before that, Keystone was also very active. And this is totally anecdotal, but when I was out at Standing Rock 4 years ago, whatever, I was talking to some activists from Texas, and we were talking about Keystone and how Obama had like pulled the plug on it, right? And they were like, no, we're from this town in Texas that was going to be affected by it. And literally what happened was they like canceled it momentarily. They basically created another company, got another permit, and just kept fucking going. Mm-hmm. So and that was never really reported in you know, in any media, because the story just went away. The big story was like, yeah, Obama like pulled the plug on it. Later on, you know, Trump brought it back. So I'm expecting similar, you know, fine print stuff with Biden in most of the stuff he gets accomplished. I'm not saying we shouldn't, like, you know, celebrate some of the things, some of the concessions he's giving progressives, but I am going to be consistently cynical about the fine print, because the reality is he had tons of donors from, the energy sector, from oil companies. Like those people, they're not just giving their money for nothing. I mean, this is the way politics works, right? So how is Biden's administration going? I think it's going according to plan, according to what they want. And realistically, like, sure, he, first day, all these executive orders, like, let's create this to look into that, right? It wasn't like, let's do that, let's actually make this happen. So I think we got to keep, holding his feet to the fire. I think people have a right to feel indignation and to feel betrayed. Obviously, the like $1,400 thing versus $1,400 versus $2,000 stimulus checks, like that's just idiocy, right? Like, why would Democrats put themselves in a position where voters are going to obviously feel betrayed 2 years down the line in the midterms? Like, that's just the dumbest political instincts you could have. So, I mean, if those are the kinds of like concessions they're making this early on, I'm not that hopeful about, major seismic shifts, which we shouldn't be. That's my point. Like, I don't think we should expect Biden to like be the most progressive president of all time, because he's not going to be. That's
right.
Yeah.
I just have an issue with you saying you're consistently cynical, because I think that the cynics, especially particularly on the left, are a problem. Where like nothing, and I don't think you are, in the sense that you started off by saying that, like acknowledging when things are done that are good, or or an improvement from the past presidency is important. But at the same time, like, you've lowered your expectations to the point that, you're not surprised or upset by anything, because you've kind of like, already gauged what Biden administration is going to be, and it's not going to be, right? I mean, so I mean, it is.
I think, yeah,
we're having all the DACA, being expanded. The stopping of deportations immediately. The reunification, intentional reunification of children with the families that they were separated at the border. The travel ban. I mean, the list goes on, right? But
totally.
But then we always have to keep pushing. That's a given.
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? That's a good point for sure. I think the reality is that I mean, this is just my personal belief on politicians, on politics in general. Like, I don't think we ever need to feel grateful towards any politicians whenever they deliver on things that either were promised or that are just. Like, there's no need to be grateful for that. Like, that's their job. Like, that's why they're put there, right? Like, there's no like, oh, thank you so much, Joe Biden, for putting us back to where we were 5 years ago. Totally, yeah. And I think that that's part of this idea where people glorify politicians, and they glorify like Biden is like our savior, and he's gonna make America great again pre-Trump, whatever that means. And so it's right? We're like literally going back to where we were 4 years ago. Trump obviously horrible, and it's good he's gone. I'm not saying that's the bad thing, obviously. But so my cynicism is not about, I'm not cynical about activists, I'm not cynical about organizers, I'm not cynical about a lot of young up and coming like local elected officials and like a lot of the expanding squad. I'm not cynical about that. I'm cynical about the elite. I'm cynical about institutions of power. And I've said this before on the show and to people that know me, like I'm eternally cynical of institutions, political institutions, and just institutions in general. But I'm also eternally optimistic about individuals. And I think that's what's being shown, right? So like, yeah, the DACA things, those are great. That's not Joe Biden. That's activists, right? That's organizers, Fight for 15, all these kinds of things. Like, these are victories that, Biden has been pushed to do these. The moment we like step off the gas pedal, there's less incentive for him to like actually deliver. So no, I think it's, it's politics, and like, I don't think Biden deserves any like patience. Like, he was put there to fix things on day one. That's what we were told. We were told that, he could beat Trump. Apparently, he was the most likely to beat Trump and win back the Senate so that we could start fixing these problems. So let's do it, right? Like, why are we trying to reach out to Republicans to find some kind of like common ground on shit where like they didn't do that. They wouldn't do that. They didn't do that with Obama. Biden was there. Like, this is idiocy. You got to get things done now as much as you can. And I obviously understand. So I mean, we can transition to like, the force to vote conversation, right? I know you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah,
And but but obviously it's related. And
it is because
yeah,
I was thinking about it. That you and I and most people wanted Bernie really badly. That was the name of the game for a while, and so now that Bernie didn't win the presidency, what does the left do with itself? What kind of tactics, strategies, and objectives, does it develop for itself? Does it even understand, the process of, developing a plan of action? Because that's organizing 101. And I think it's important to differentiate between activism, knee jerk, kind of like reactionary, online, many times exclusively, and like boots on the ground and small group, long term, short term type of building a campaign, building a movement to get some of these things going. And so that's kind of one of the things that at play. But one of the things I'll say is that a big win is that Bernie is going to be on the Senate Budget Committee, which, in my view, as I think about it now, perhaps
In my view,
it was probably the best way to the best thing that could have happened maybe was that because Bernie would have been consumed with COVID and all these other things, not to say that he's not and we're not, or the Congress is not, but as that committee chair, he gets to do what he's been doing for years and loves doing, which is like being a policy wonk and legislating. And not everybody's good at it, and I think he is. So in that sense, I think it's good. But yeah, but of course, not enough for many people. The squad not enough, and many people very much turned very strongly against the squad and Bernie for not supporting the force to vote, because they felt that this was it and Medicare for all needed to happen right here, right now. And if you didn't, you were a neo-progressive, you were a cuck, and you were a sellout. Bernie, the squad, and everybody that didn't support force to vote included. What are your thoughts on that, sir?
so yeah, I mean, I think I think it needs to be approached from two angles. One, I think first of all, people have a right to be upset, right? I don't feel comfortable when either organizers, politicians, and especially pundits like talk down to the average voter, and they're like, well, you don't know how it is. It's more difficult than it is. It might be true, but that's not how you like reach out to people. And I actually don't think it's necessarily that true. Like, yes, politics is complicated. There's a lot of backroom shit that goes on.
There was, in order to get Bernie the Senate chair.
There's a lot of procedural stuff that goes on, totally. But like, I just hate when people talk down to people who are just getting involved in politics and are like really passionate about it. And maybe they're just starting to get organized and they're just starting to get into activism and all that stuff. And like, it just always makes me feel very uncomfortable when people are like, oh, you don't really know, so just like step out of the way. That's anti-democratic. I mean, that's, we want to talk about voter suppression, like that's civic engagement suppression, because you're telling people that their voice doesn't matter and they shouldn't voice their grievances. Now, on the other side, I think a lot of people are unjustifiably kind of forgetting that it is, so AOC has, let's take AOC as a representative of the squad, right? Like, she has certain obligations to her constituents. It is a job. She has to get certain things done as an elected representative. And that, in a way, that comes with privileges, but she's also doesn't have a lot of the freedom that she would have if she wasn't an elected official, right? Her job is to pass budgets, it's to pass legislation. And yes, her job was also, according to many of her constituents who voted for her, was to go in and not play politics as usual. So I see both sides on this thing, man. I mean, like, a lot of people are upset that AOC is thinking about, committee appointments and thinking down the line, like, well, she can't upset Pelosi because she's got to make sure she plays the game so that she can run for president. I mean, look, that's fine. I love AOC. When she announces, I would love to, help with that campaign. Totally on board. But I think people that, especially your direct constituents who elected her, I don't think they elected her to play politics as usual, to do the behind the scenes stuff. I think they wanted someone to go in and disrupt. And so once again, I'm not defending anyone here. I'm just saying I think the grievances are justifiable. But I don't like how people are mistaking like differences in strategy with like AOC is all of a sudden doesn't care about Medicare for all. And she's not a progressive because she she took a different strategy approach than what I would have done. That's amateur. I mean, that's not productive in any way whatsoever. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand on it. I think there are a lot of grievances that are justifiable, but I think obviously the left is completely fractured right now. People are just going at one another's throats, and that's not productive. There is a way to disagree amongst progressives, and disagree in strategy, and realize that, hey, maybe in this one I wasn't happy with AOC, but obviously she wants Medicare for all, and I have a right to call her out on maybe doing something that I didn't like, but I'm not going to call her a sellout and whatever. I've never even heard this word, neo-progressive. What the hell is that?
New terminology. Well, yeah, let me lay this out. This kind of just occurred to me, but it's kind of like I feel like a lot of the people on the left that we were talking about here kind of were only on board because Bernie Sanders was launching an insurgent campaign, and being an independent politician, they felt like, look, if we can seize the presidency, okay, I'm on board, let's do it. And when it didn't fall through and their greatest fears manifested, that he would just be what they feel is co-opted by the party, and all that momentum would be shifted not to a political revolution, but inward towards Joe Biden. They were going to be out anyway. They're not on board for that from the beginning when they supported Bernie Sanders. So it's kind of a weird expectation to be like, oh, you have to keep supporting him. But the plan didn't work, and now they're just back to politics as usual. So how would you respond to that?
I'm sorry, I didn't follow the end of that. So when who didn't get?
Well, when Bernie Sanders didn't receive the presidency as an insurgent political campaign, that's what these critics on the left, these are those people. Those are the people that you're saying they don't want to do politics as usual. They want disruptive politics, right? So when the insurgent political campaign fails, and then Bernie and they all just want to say, hey, ignore the rape allegations against Joe Biden, vote for him. And then they just feel like, well, they would never have been on board with that from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? So if that's a mitigation, you know what I'm saying? These aren't Democrats that are turning on Bernie Sanders. These are third-party people in the first place that were only on board for that remote chance of winning.
Got it, I follow now. Yeah, and I mean, look, that gets to the deeper problem here, which is that we've I think as a country, we've internalized this idea that politics is a bipartisan thing. It's a bicameral thing, right? There's Democrats and there's Republicans, and that's how government works. Whereas these are just private clubs, and they have taken over democracy as an institution, but that is the reality that we have to work with. And Bernie Sanders, he has a luxury to be an independent, because he lives in a place like Vermont and grew out of Vermont politics, where there's a viable, progressive party in Vermont. That there's a lot of factors that go into that. It's rural. There's very few people. Honestly, the population of Vermont is literally twice the population of Santa Ana, just for context. The entire state of Vermont is twice the size of Santa Ana. So, or Costa Mesa, I think it's less than twice of Santa Ana.
Right.
But anyway, so he has that advantage, and I think people, Bernie's whole idea was not doing politics as usual, political revolution, getting people involved, people that normally aren't active. And I think what they're forgetting is that wasn't just about the presidency. It wasn't just about congressional races. Bernie wants people to be involved in local politics. And I think a lot of these people that are really frustrated with AOC, it's look, AOC's not really a rep. She's someone else's rep. Yeah, you have a right to criticize her and stuff, but you can also be organizing your communities. And what is your rep doing? How is let's pressure your rep, right? Let's pressure your city council. There's a lot of things that can be done on the local level. At this point, I really tell people that, especially coming out of this horrendous, presidential 2 years of this presidential race, it's a good opportunity to get involved in local politics, because you have you can have a really strong impact. One of my buddies, I just came from Birmingham, and he's helping run a re-election campaign for the mayor there. And I mean, they're doing some really cool stuff. I had no idea. The mayor, he won, he's young, he's 39 years old, young African-American, very, very progressive, he endorsed Bernie, but I think Bernie came down and like received the endorsement there. And really cool guy. He's been doing a lot of cool stuff for like local criminal justice stuff. They have this cool thing called the Birmingham Promise, where they're literally like matching any like grants, basically anyone that wants to go to college within Birmingham can go for free. Like the city is matching that essentially. They're making it happen. They found the money. They're making it happen. They found a way to make it happen. My buddy was telling me they're working on a potential like UBI pilot program that they're going to launch. Like this is local politics.
Right. That's good.
And like, but these are tangible effects that, you know, people are going to feel in their community right away. I think a lot of people forget that national politics is it's not a massive pendulum swing. It's always within very narrow goalposts. And that is very frustrating because especially when we send people like, you know, like AOC, and it's like, yeah, we want them to disrupt. Well, there's only so much they can disrupt at that level. And hopefully the squad is growing. The progressive, the actual progressive caucus within Congress is growing. But there's only so much they're going to be able to do, unfortunately.
Yeah. So let's go back to that, to like the criticisms of like AOC or different progressives. Like people on the left are saying, "Oh, you're like not doing enough," or like you're a sellout. So like, let me give you this example. So this say on Force the Vote, they're saying take a public stance of a political position opposing Nancy Pelosi to ask for a small political concession. That's kind of like the idea. And they're saying, whoa, don't like that's not smart. Yeah, like you're saying, maybe they're going to try to play a long game, or perhaps like Jose was saying, there's like these backdoor negotiations where it's like, that's the thing. AOC doesn't come out and say, I just negotiated with Nancy Pelosi and this is what they're giving us, right? Did they say that? Because isn't it kind of just like, these become secrets, right? Because they start having to play politics. You have to like, basically it's deception, it's lies. Like you need to put one face for this and one face for your audience. And I guess for me, I feel like when you start, like, it's a common theme, like, right, that a politician turns at some point, right? They are corrupted. It's like the Jedi in the dark side of the Force, right? Like it's like that happens. This is a common theme. So it's like when they start not providing evidence for like the things they're pushing, and they just say, "Trust me, I'm doing it." There'll be a line, right, for people to start believing or not believing, right?
And that's valid. I think my understanding is that eventually, a couple of days after all that kind of Force the Vote stuff was going on, AOC came out with a statement that explained her rationale for why she was doing it. And like I said, look, I'm vehement about, like, I was loving all the memes about, like, you know, forcing a vote. I'm hate is a strong word, but I feel close to that for Pelosi, you know, like, and so, yeah, like I'm in no way like going to defend Pelosi as a speaker. I think, you know, that speaks to a bigger fault within the Democratic Party once again, that 2 years ago, she said she wasn't going to run. This time she's running again. She ran again and for the speakership and got it because there was no one ready to come up the ranks. But the thing I wanted to say was like about the actual Force the Vote debate, like my understanding, anyone out there can correct me if I'm wrong, is like National Nurses United, right? The nurses union, they've been pushing for Medicare for all for years. Like that is the number one, I would say, advocacy group, like for Medicare for all. I think that unanimously people would probably agree with that. Where were they in the Force the Vote debate? Like people that were the hashtag Force the Vote people, did they consult them? Did they like bring them did they organize with the nurses to like create pressure on AOC and the squad to make this happen? I don't think they did. And so, I mean, that speaks to like, it's one thing to call out politicians, but it's another thing to organize effectively to get the results that you want. And I think so that once again, like the grievances are completely valid. I do not want to discredit those grievances because I think they are valid. And people that are upset that AOC and people like that are playing, they're getting into the politics of Congress. They have a right to be upset. But the reality is also that like, if you want them to not play those games, and if you want them to really effectively create the change you want, you know, it takes work. It takes a lot of like organizing and working with one of these organizations that like has a lot of actual leverage in Congress. that could be a good place to start. So, you know, hopefully that's a lesson learned. And next time, I mean, I would love to force the vote. Like I would love to do that. Let's see how we can make it happen, right? So rather than like bickering and like being like, oh, AOC is a sellout, and like so and so is like a purist and all this other crap. Like, I mean, there are constructive ways that we can organize here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really fair point. There could have been like some more proactive steps. And I mean, I think like I like Jimmy Dore's anger because it matches like the crises we're facing. But I think sometimes he leaps to conclusions. Like I'm way more like if there's not enough evidence, you shouldn't jump to a conclusion either way. But I feel like there's just a lot of people that will jump to the other side and say, you're sellout. I don't believe you anymore. And there's not much you can tell them other than I totally agree with what you're saying, man. We need to channel this energy into like local stuff. Cause like, think about like in this thing you're talking about, like federal politics is a two-party system, right? At the stage, but only not in an abstract way. We could live in a world where there are many parties, or we have something more like coalition governments and other smaller parties mattering, right? But that's work that has to be done, right? And it has to be done somewhere.
Honestly, I mean, it's funny, right? Like I mean, Bernie, if you listen to some of his old like speeches and stuff from like the 80s when he was a mayor, and like this guy hated the Democratic Party, obviously, still, I think he still does. And his whole, like, he was always talking about, we need a third party, a people's party, we need all this stuff. And I don't think it's cynicism that got him. I think it, like, reality set in, and like, especially for him, he was like, look, the way I can make effective change is by, you know, I have to work within the system because I am part of the system now, right? Like my like at the deepest like core of my heart, my dream was like Bernie would win. And he would be like, all right, screw this, new party. I'm not going to be Democratic president. I'm going to be, you know, like literally take the D off my name. I just ran to get elected. Screw you guys. Like that's, you know, in my heart of hearts, like that's what I would have like loved, which would never have happened. Never would happen. But I think once again, like, especially now, man, I think it's once again, like, yeah, I said I'm cynical about Biden and all that stuff, but I'm kind of optimistic about the chaos that's going on because these labels are meaningless. What the hell does it mean to be a conservative? What does it mean to be a liberal? What does it mean to be progressive? These labels mean absolutely nothing today.
What does it mean to be a
been very little 4 years ago. They mean nothing today. So I think that's a good opportunity, right? Because it's actually like opening up this window that Bernie talked about for forever, which was like, let's talk about the issues. Like, don't worry about the label. Let's talk about how people feel about a $2,000 monthly check. Let's talk about how people feel about, you know, universal health care. Let's talk about, you know, a living wage. That's not a Democratic issue.
Yeah.
Clearly, that's not a Republican issue either. Like, these should not be political issues. These are just like social justice issues that, you know, that we should be able to talk about openly with anyone.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a great segue. I mean, Jose just mentioned the Boogaloo Boys. I don't know if you're familiar with the controversy with Jimmy Dore interviewing a Boogaloo Boy.
I didn't watch it. I didn't watch the interview. I'm familiar with the controversy, but I didn't watch it. So I don't know to what extent. I mean, I know people are upset that he gave it a platform. I imagine it has a lot to do with the continuation of like the horseshoe theory and people's, you know, willingness to like work with like, it's like, oh, progressives and like, right, and we can find common ground. I personally have an issue with the horseshoe theory for other reasons, which is I think it normalizes this idea that centrism is at the center, which is a fucking lie. It's not. It's not majority support. These centrist ideas are not the center. It's mislabeled. It's a minute thing. Progressivism is the majority, right? And so I think it creates this false illusion that like the only recourse the progressives have is to reach out to people on this other fringe. And I think that's not really productive. I think it definitely like legitimizes a lot of the negative aspects of like, you know, people like the Wheeler Boys and stuff. And so I don't think it's necessary to like even break it down, like progressive, Boogaloo Boy, like Pride Boys, all this other shit. Like, let's talk about the issues. Like, why, right? Like, it's not really, it shouldn't be relevant as long as we're talking about the issues. But once you start like,
well,
talking about these allyships with far right groups, now you're compromising your own integrity in the eyes of a lot of your base.
Yeah,
That's what we're doing.
So I think it's, yeah, I think that's we should be able to talk with people that we disagree with, even strongly. I mean, I think that's part of what people that are on the outside don't understand about what it means to actually work within electoral politics. Like, you know, and I think either from whether it's the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world, or you know, or other folks that are just not willing to, you know, that are like very fringy, and they speak specifically to their base, but then they're not really effective much more in any more way than just to put you know, piece of wood in the rail, you know, on the railway. You know, they just are resorting to just be obstructionists and shamers, like, oh, you know, you aren't doing this and you're not standing for the people, you know. And Bernie's gotten it too. Like, there's a lot of things of young Bernie's idealism, that it wasn't that like you said, he wasn't that became cynical. It's just that he realized that he had to work with any and all people, and throughout the history, he's worked with Republicans and, you know, and Democrats. And it doesn't mean that he supports, you know, Republicanism or conservatism, or even the Democratic Party necessarily. It just means like he's trying to get shit done. And I think people that are just particularly outside of the party, Dem exit, third party, it's like, I don't know, just don't really have a party or a green party, then they just resort to this kind of like just flinging rocks from the sidelines, and not really understanding that, you know, there is something. And it's, we don't live,
once again,
we don't live in a democracy. We live in a republic, representative. So we elect these people to do the right thing for us. We're assuming that they're.
It's a kind of democracy, though.
It's a kind of democracy, but not really. And
it's a representative
but here's
democracy.
The thing, Jose, once again, like I don't know if saying like that people that don't know how it is, or like if that's necessarily productive. I understand, and I think once again, I think their grievances are valid. Like, you might call them.
Here's an example. I go into the doctor and the doctor says, well, I think you need to do this and this and this and that, and this is what I feel is going to happen. And then the doctor, you know, he went to school for many years. You didn't. So, you know, his experience in it is not the same as your experience in it, but it doesn't mean that he's right all the time. And it's proven, because doctors are constantly, you know, wrong, or are, you know, things happen that are outside of like the realm of what they thought was real. And so there is something to be said. Here's the problem. I think I have a big problem with anti-academia that I think is really burgeoning within the far left right now, to where they think, and this whole postmodernism, they think that they know best when they've never even been at the table. That is a problem. I think that is a problem. You should at least give people the benefit of the doubt, especially people like AOC. It doesn't mean that you put them on a pedestal and, like, you know, we should not do that at all for any politician. But we can't continually like look at them cynically. It's like, oh, you're a sellout. You're never, like, that's not building.
So I guess here's my thing, right? Like, how is that what is that obstructing? Like, I mean, I think they're like, these people are like, how are they affecting effective organizing? By complaining. I think they're like kind of stepping outside of
talking about obstructionism in the sense of like what they wanted, what Force the Vote was trying to do. It wasn't, the objective wasn't like we're actually going to get Medicare for all. The objective was like, let's like throw a wrench into this shit and then expose everybody that wasn't supporting Medicare for all, and just make a lot of noise so that we, you know, it can like make,
I don't think so, because a lot of people supported this. I mean, Cornell.
Yeah,
go ahead.
But that's a different. Once again, that's a difference in strategy. Like I might not agree with that strategy, but like they're not. I don't see that as obstructionism. I see that as a profound difference in like how we're going to come. Right, in their minds, it's like we're going to throw a wrench in this. It's going to expose things, and then we're going to get Medicare for all somehow.
You don't see that as obstruction. When they didn't vote for Pelosi, like that would have like been a problem. And
how?
They needed the squad's votes in order to get Pelosi to get in.
Well, yeah, that's why it was leverage. I mean, but like there wasn't how was the Republican going to get elected? It's a majority of the votes cast.
What are we arguing here? I'm saying obstruction is leverage, and if you're gonna be an obstruction, that's fine. But I don't think it's in long term a sustainable strategy.
Well, let me answer the obstruction part. What I think what the appearance of obstruction is that like the left is fighting for bodies. You know, like there's people that want to channel it through the Democratic Party, and that's fine. And there's people that want to do it outside. So I guess my original point of kind of trying to short circuit the whole thing critiques, we're never going to go with the Democratic Party in the first place,
Right,
unless Bernie took over.
I don't think it's obstructing anything. Like, you're not losing votes that you never had. My thing, and I think this ties into the point here, like, I don't really have that much of an issue with the force to vote thing, to be honest. I have more of an issue with, like, people being upset that, like, Nina Turner announced as a Democrat. And it's like, she's phony because she ran as a Democrat. She could have run as an independent, but she didn't. To me, that's dumb. That's really stupid.
I don't have a problem with forced to vote. Like, you know, in like in principle, like I think we should, like, you know, like, I don't know, like do some sable rattling. And
so here's a good point, right?
I just didn't like how, you know, this, like, okay, you don't agree with my strategy, well, fuck you and fuck that and fuck everybody.
Yeah, it's been hyperbolic for sure.
I mean, it's funny, right? I see some parallels between force to vote and the Wall Street stuff now with GameStop, right? Where, like, yes, people are very passionate about the GameStop stuff. They're like, you know, there are people who are, you know, this is sticking it to the man. This is David versus Goliath. No, this is not going to change anything. I mean, in reality, like, you have people who have a lot of experience investing in the stock market, who are in these Reddit groups, and, like, they know what's going on. They know, they're going to know when to pull out. Other people are going to get sucked into it. It's also in the financial sector, like, it is just a blip. Like, this is not going to disrupt Wall Street. Like, this is, like, you know, it is just a little blip. And so once again, like, that's theater, that's performative as well. Like, these people are, like, making a statement. And so why are we glorifying these people and then, like, condemning these other people who also just wanted to play political theater?
But it's
like,
not performative. People are going to lose millions and millions of dollars. This is not nothing. This is not
no. Well, no. The idea that, like, this is going, the idea that this is going to disrupt Wall Street. I mean, it is symbolic. This is a symbolic fight. Yeah, there's, like, real money on the line, but it's symbolism. It is theater. It's an act of, like, defiance against these odds that, you know, like, you're not actually going to change things, like, dramatically. Yes, it's raising awareness. I think it's narratives matter, and I think it's important that this is happening. It's educating a lot of new people about how Wall Street is rigged, how all of this is just a big gambling casino and it's all a farce, and how a lot of these companies have no real value. They're not really contributing much, and everything's just floating. So that's important, but let's not make it bigger than it needs to be, I think, in the same way that, like, this fight for Medicare for all is like, look, I think forced to vote would have been better if they were like, we know this is going to fail. We want it to fail, and this is theater, and we want to, like, literally just fuck shit up. Be honest about it. That's what's going to happen. You want to fuck shit up? Do it. But be honest about it. And, like, in their defense, I know I keep going back and forth here, but I don't think it's a black and white issue. That's the whole point. And, like, literally, in their defense, like, what the hell was Trump's impeachment, the first impeachment? That's political theater. Like, Democrats knew they weren't going to get him out of office. They knew Senate was never going to, like, go with it. So that's political theater too. And they did it. They invested, like, tons of time and energy and all this crap. That's theater, right? So let's call it what it is. And let's criticize them. Let's criticize all that other shit. Like, let's be consistent.
Yes, the world is this, you know, we're all characters and the world is a stage or something. Shakespeare said. But so yes, in that sense, everything is a theater, but some things have more impact than others. The impeachment vote was very much performative. This, there's a lot more of strategy, whether or not people as a whole know exactly what they're doing, or that they even knew that they were going to be able to have this much impact from the beginning. Like, nobody could have guessed that, you know. But I do think that it's going to have some effect in the sense that, like you said, people are finally realizing that the game is rigged, and you know, and so, you know, in this, hopefully we'll have some reform to the stock market, although probably not much or not enough, right? But yeah, I think, and maybe this is like what we can kind of tie it all into, right? Is what do we do on with as far as the fractioning of the Bernie movement? I think Dylan is completely right. There was a lot of folks that would have never gotten involved in politics had it not been for Bernie and his, super idealistic kind of approach. The fact that he was an independent for many years, like he's not bogged down and entrenched into the swamp that is, politics and establishment from all sides, and what is the swamp, right? It's the kingmakers, it's the gatekeepers, it's the lobbyists, and it's the mudslinging and the slanderous and salacious type of attacks that people wage against each other when in reality they're yeah, so that's the swamp. So Bernie was above that, or he had a cloak on that, like an invisibility shield that allowed him to like not be corrupted from that. But that's not the case for large parts, and so very many people, like after Bernie lost, they're like, "Fuck this, I'm out." Understood.
They're like, "Fuck it, I'm moving to the woods."
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm chopping wood, like to get my rage out. And God bless you, because probably more people should chop wood and tweet and post, like divisive stuff less on I think there should be. And I took a timeout. I think everybody should have taken a timeout, especially because you invest so much of yourself, into this belief, this hope, this dream, and that dream came crashing down in like a very traumatic and tragic type of way. And we can blame the establishment. And yes, Obama called Klobuchar and called Buttigieg and said like, hey, if y'all want a position on this Biden administration, y'all better like, bend the knee right the fuck now. And they did. And so here's my point. We cannot, as a left, continually whine and say like, oh, the establishment, they're so mean and they rigged the rules against us. And like, we can't be the whining minority. We have to learn the rules of the game. We have to learn how to play the game better, and we have to win. And as Bernie said, we need to start from the bottom up. So I'm totally down for a workers' party or a people's party movement or all of that. And whenever I hear all that stuff, I'm like, all right, well then build a base, build a border block, because that's what makes unions powerful. That's what makes these other, Planned Parenthood powerful. Win school board races, win city council races, win, state Congress, state Senate, state assembly. And then we can like talk about building, from the bottom up and towards, but they're constantly saying like, no, we need to like, third party, Green Party right now. And it just becomes this like, just this outside type of non-effective, non-building, just shit talking, because they are more woke and they get to woke shame other people that are inside, and they don't want to be, but we have to, because someone fucking has to.
What's wrong with going for Green or third party though? I don't get it.
Nothing.
Okay.
The woke shaming is the problem.
Okay, but like, so it's a pose for pose. If you're gonna complain, I say I agree with you, but complain, but do something. And
do something. Green Party. What I said. I support third party. You have to win races. You have to win school board races. You have to win city council races. And then, we can have you be a legitimate like third party in this, or maybe it's the people party. I don't care, but we just can't get it to the point where it's this purity test that nobody will ever be able to win, because, there is a thing to be said about viability. Do you have a base of volunteers that are willing to phone bank, that are willing to knock on doors, that are willing to get or are you just going to like rely on, honking waves and collectivism, and just own, the libtards online, just like, the boogaloos and the far right wing of the world. That's just not going to work. It'll get you clicks and it'll get you views, but it won't really build, the movement we want and need, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think for me, like I said earlier, like I don't really, for a long time, I was a big proponent. This is years ago of like, we need a third party, like the Democratic Party sucks. And it does. My view hasn't changed. But I think I've moved more towards like, I don't really care. Like if you run as a Democrat, like if it makes sense to run as a Democrat, run as a Democrat. If it makes sense to run as an independent or as a green, and you have a viable path to victory, do that. And I think just the way like politics works in this country, like it varies from state to state, obviously from community to community, and like people I think need to be like, look, once again, if we break it down, we talk about the issues, like you can run as a Democrat and clearly you're not really a progressive, like, so these labels are meaningless. They're only as meaningful as we want them to be. And when you're talking about organizing, like, I think, yeah, people need to provide these spaces for a new generation of like elected officials to come out of. And I think what I will say, like, coming out of, there's this big narrative that like Bernie's movement is fractured and it like fell apart, and like, what are we going to do? I mean, to some extent, yeah, but I saw some really amazing stuff all around the country, and like, I think of like the 19-year-old organizers and shit who were like way more competent than I ever was when I was 19. You know, like people who were like have one or two, you know, big election cycles under their belts now. Like those people are going to be power players. You know, when they're like 30, when they're like, you know, when the time comes and there's another, you know, progressive, whether it's AOC or someone else, like that's running a big national campaign, like we're all gonna be that much more prepared. And like, so I'm like I said, I'm optimistic about that. I'm cynical about like what's going on in DC, because that's how DC works, you know, and it sucks. And like, it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of work to change how that works. But we do what we can. And in this case, I think once again, defer to young people because it's their world and like they kind of actually happen to know best. So.
Okay, I have another question. Should Twitter have banned Donald Trump?
Yeah, I have no issue with Twitter banning Donald Trump. I think, yeah, why not? It's a private company; they can do whatever they want. Like, I think the bigger issue for me was always like, why the hell is the media covering Donald Trump? It's Twitter, you know. Like, he has a press office. Like, he should be issuing press releases. The fact that people took his tweets, I understand. He's like, he would make presidential announcements via Twitter, but like, I'm gonna ignore that. Like, I'm gonna wait for his actual like, you know, press conference that he's gonna hold. So the media, I think the media exactly. I mean, once again, back to my original point when we started this conversation, is like every little thing that he would tweet was just like amplified and amplified and amplified. Starting with this in 2015 when he started his run for president, and so, you know, I think, yeah, it's good. I mean, they should have cut him off like years ago. Like, this is.
Yeah, but like, don't you think there's problems where there was free speech implications online?
I mean, I don't see it. I think, I mean, it's a private company. That's not like, you don't have a constitutional right to tweet.
Well, I mean, but it's because the federal government classified this kind of telecommunication in a certain way such that it's not subject to those public free speech laws. It's not just, oh, it just happens to be that way. That was the best thing that we did. It's because those companies bought politicians who write the laws such that they can make these arbitrary decisions. So like,
I guess,
now,
but I mean, I always assumed that like I could get banned at any time from any platform because it's a private company. Like, if I want to, like, I mean, it sucks, right? Yeah, but like, and yeah, there are gatekeepers. There's always, I mean, if I want to like get something published in the New York Times, like I got to pitch an idea and I got to get it through until it gets published. Whereas like Twitter, yeah, I like democratizes that a bit. It also creates a lot of like noise and chaos. And I think unfortunately, it is a private organ. Look, the problem is like, we should be talking about why we allowed Facebook and Twitter to become our news outlets. Like, that's how people consume news now, through Facebook and through Twitter. Like, that's probably not a healthy way of doing things, right?
Well,
And we should also be talking about why corporate media is run the way it is. So these are bigger conversations.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. In a circumstance where giant corporations own like 90% of this kind of communication, social media, and that you can just be arbitrarily banned without any process, like, it's going to make it in a future where we don't handle these monopolies and all this is owned by giant companies. Like, there's no laws for this. Like, they can do anything they want.
Right. But that's why we're trying to get the right people elected to overturn these laws, right?
Yeah.
Just like the banks. Right?
But that's what I'm saying. Like, the ideal situation, wouldn't it be that why can't we have jurisprudence for the commons public free speech, right? We have hundreds of years of jurisprudence for this. Why can't that apply? Like, wouldn't that be a fairer process if we regulated this? I think it's called like
the internet.
Yeah.
I think, you know, Twitter happens to be a private company. Like I can't go on like, I don't know, I can't go on if I go on like Domino's, you know, Facebook page and I'm like typing all this crap and like posting all this shit on their wall, like they have a right to delete, they can delete my comment.
Mhm.
Like why would they want to have my content on there if they want to not? Look,
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Well, I guess it's because I'm saying they have a monopoly on the infrastructure for a necessary method of communication. So the United States doesn't have to guarantee postal service to everyone in the United States, but at a certain time, that was the necessary communication standard. So the government had to step in and say, we will serve everyone out into the rural communities in Vermont where it's not very cost effective to do that or whatever, right? So
right,
like,
so the solution is to break up the monopoly. It's not necessarily to like, you know, like, yeah, like it shouldn't have that much of a control over information in the first place.
Yeah, but we
That's
gave
the fact that
the people
Yes.
gave it to them. This is it's like what Twitter is one thing, and then like Facebook owning Instagram, owning WhatsApp. Like I'm more
Right.
way more like worried and concerned about that than I am about Twitter, because Twitter wasn't around 10 years ago, and for all intents and purposes might not be around in 10 years. There'll be some other, you know, Johnny come lately tech company that will, you know, just completely blow, you know, like Twitter out of the water. If everybody as a whole, just in the same way democratically, was to, you know, how they did with the game stonk, you know, decided to do a collective action and tell Twitter to fuck itself because it's like, you know, not being fair or whatever, we could do that, and maybe we should, but that's not the question here. The question is like, you know, like should people that are fomenting anger or not just anger, but like, you know, like violence, and many of the supporters of Trump and what he was doing around the Stop the Steal did that. He should be banned, and private, you know, companies should have the ability to do that. Now, if Twitter was owned by the government and they did that, then we would be talking about 1984.
That's different.
We're not. And that's now whenever I hear, oh, this is 1984, like, did you read the book? This is not the government colluding with Twitter. Like, the government didn't say like, hey, ban this guy. That's not what the hell happened.
And here's the thing, like, I mean, my understanding is he was banned ultimately for violating like the terms, right, of this private company and I think it was for like spreading misinformation.
yeah, but I mean,
right?
Yeah, it's so disingenuous.
Over 100.
But that's what, but like verifiably incorrect information that he was propagating should have been done years ago. They should have done it years ago.
Yeah.
That's when I scrolled through the crap and I agree without reading any of it. That's what it says up there. And like if I violated it, like I should be kicked off of this platform, right? I never like scrolled through the Constitution and was like, I agree to this, you know, like that. Free speech is free speech. You know, commenting on like a private company is an agreement between me and a private entity.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The problem is that if they own the infrastructure for communication, it's not that it's their private website. They own the mechanics to communicate. It's not that you're posting on their private website. They own the wheels. They own the roads. You can't get there without them. That's different, because it's kind of like, oh well, all these private companies own all the water, so I mean, look, you just have to deal with it. If they don't want to sell you water, you just die of dehydration. That's the same argument. I'm kind of, it's not as extreme, right? But we're fast approaching.
So I guess I'm just saying, like, why can't Trump just like use Snapchat and like give his tweets via Snapchat instead? Like, nothing's stopping him. Like,
he could be banned. I don't know. A lot of people were banned after that.
Then he tries Facebook, and then he just keeps trying. And like, if they ban him for something that he didn't violate, then he can sue them because he has a case against them. But like so that's I don't necessarily with that. Like, I don't understand how Twitter like owns the means of like disseminating information. Like, he can have his own blog. Like, there's ways of getting his work. He can have a fucking press release as the president. Like, you know, there's like.
Yeah,
there's ways.
Twitter doesn't own the internet.
No, I know, but I'm just saying they're pretty much there. You're saying we depend on them for our news and stuff. Like, I'm just saying we put ourselves in a situation where we depend on them.
Look, so I have a Twitter account. I don't really use it. Like, I'll like check Twitter, but like I don't like post stuff. So like I don't feel like if I got banned, like I don't know, like I would still be able to consume that information. I don't really. I mean, look, let's fucking go there. Like, perhaps this goes into like a deeper conversation of like this narcissism that we have as a society, where we feel that our view, our like words, should be amplified to like absolutely everyone, and that like the fact that I don't have the potential to get like 1 million likes on this photo or on this like really funny tweet that I spent 20 minutes thinking about, like that's an infringement on my like, you know, free speech. So I don't know, maybe that's where we're at, and that's why people are all up in arms, because we feel that we're entitled to like, you know, the world as our stage, you know, and that like, I mean, there's another way. You don't need Twitter. You can use some other platform if you want, right? You can write a book and get it published. You can, like, I understand Twitter's easy, and that's why.
But it's not the same.
That's why it's popular.
Yeah, but like, it's not the same medium, and it's not the same thing. I mean, I'm just worried that if we just relegate all of these things to private companies, if we continue this trend of letting them own all of these kinds of things,
and I don't think we should let them own them.
Yeah,
once again,
we'll be in a world controlled by them. I mean, we already are.
Yeah, and we should definitely not let them do that. Like, I think once again, like to me, these issues, the fact that like a lot of people kind of end up talking about this infringement of free speech takes away from the broader conversation of these monopolies and how much market share they you know they have. When it's similar with like voter suppression, right? When people talk about Mitch McConnell, like why the hell is he keep getting reelected? Like we hate Mitch. Well, let's talk about why why voter suppression in his home state, or like let's talk about gerrymandering. Let's talk about those issues, and let's address those larger issues that are allowing the rise of people like Mitch McConnell, and that are allowing the rise of companies like Twitter or Facebook in this case, right? And so that's what I worry about, is that when we like obsess and fight amongst ourselves over these, like, they're not anecdotal, but they're like smaller instances, like we're losing sight of the bigger picture, and we're losing sight of like these solutions that like need to be addressed to prevent these things from happening again.
I agree. And to the point of privatization of water, like it should have never been done to begin with. Like that's, and I think that's one clear example of how the privatization of things that should be a human right, like healthcare and other things, are very problematic, because we shouldn't trust these companies with doing this. Now, when it comes to entertainment and leisure, like there's just a lot of companies that we're going to support or buy into, even as we don't like what they're doing, right? We don't like the AT&T owns everything, or like a few companies, but then we were still buying their products. We don't like that that global warming is a thing, but then we're still buying gas and and using these things. And so we as long as we continue to buy into and give them the power to take away our free speech and all that, then I think it's not going to change. And I think Socrates is right that by focusing on these little things, we lose sight of like the bigger fights that either we should have waged from the get-go and nipped it in the bud while before it became what it is, or like really try to truly like go after what is the most problematic aspect of privatization, which is the monopolies. And there's just too many in this country that that have way too much power, and billionaires shouldn't exist. And where's the guillotines? Damn it! This is what I'm waiting for, baby. I'm just kidding.
Well, I'll put $50 on that. The tech companies won't be sued for trust issues under the Biden administration. But I mean, you tell me. You look at his fundraising, and you tell me if you think that'll happen.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Well, this is awesome. I love this conversation. We could definitely continue to like fight and debate, and but healthy debates about all these different things, even as all three of us are very much closer ideologically or politically than other folks. But even amongst ourselves, there's obviously differences in approaches and tactics, or focuses as far as like the things that we're passionate about and we want to do now. But I think that these are the type of conversations that folks on the left should be having, in small groups, one-on-one, and less online. Like online, like it's just never going to be the best place for us to really do base building and solidarity building and all of the more constructive things that we need to do as a left party. But maybe, I don't know, Socrates, do you have something you want to say?
Party words? Yeah, I mean, definitely don't. I made the mistake 4 years ago of like really like, go using Facebook as like, debating people on there and like trying to prove your point. It's such a waste of time. I lost some really good friendships, which luckily I recovered years later. But no, really, like literally, my best.
I can imagine you being an asshole online if like.
Oh, you know it. You know it. Yeah.
You know it.
Not saying that you're an asshole, but I just know that you're like on like offline sarcasm. It wouldn't like online. It just wouldn't translate.
Oh, it just frustrates people. It's great. I love it, which makes me want to do it more, right? So anyway, so that was really not productive. Made me feel good. It made me feel good to feel angry, but yeah, not productive. So I would highly discourage people from like, using this shit to try to like convince people, because you're never gonna do it. Like, just be like, hey, let's talk. Give me a call. Let's talk about this.
All right.
So, yeah, that's what I would say.
So last, yes or no? Boogaloo Boys, good, bad, yes, no.
I mean, bad.
Are they good or
They're
bad?
They're bad.
Should they be interviewed, and should we find common ground with them?
Oh my God. I think that's a much more complicated question.
I think the question is, can we? I mean, not should we, but I think we can find common ground with everyone, right? But I think, once again, like if we're going to have a conversation, so I don't, like I said, I didn't watch the interview. I try to watch.
I just saw the memes afterwards.
Like, well, that's what I'm talking about, though. But like, I think if he had him on the show and was like, "Look, let's talk about these things," and then also called them out on like their shit and put them on the spot.
That's what happened.
I imagine that is not what happened. But like, I think if you're going to do that, you have a moral responsibility to put them on the spot as well, and to talk about, to challenge them. Otherwise, it's not really a discourse. Otherwise, you're just like rubbing their feet. So like, yeah. That, like I said, I didn't watch the interview. One thing I will, anyway, I'll leave it there.
Well, being the only one who watched the interview, what I'll say is that like, I feel like if the Boogaloo Boys, the overarching ideology was literally not like racism and Nazis, I would be like, no, you probably don't want to reach out to those people. But evidently, the belief system of the Boogaloo Boys pertains more to like anti-authoritarian. There are Nazis in this movement because it appeals to militia-style groups who are typically libertarian, right? So anti-authoritarian. But this particular person in their group is anti-racist, they're LGBTQ friendly and all these things. And then he'll say all these progressive social things, but then he's a libertarian. That happens all the fucking time with libertarians, and then they're into guns. That's kind of their thing. So it's kind of like, they're like a libertarian version of the redneck revolt, right? They're just guys that are into guns, but the redneck revolt's more into left politics, right? So yeah, if they're Nazis, no, but like there are Nazis in this movement, but does that mean there is no nuance between individual groups and giant broad social movement? It's kind of like saying, well, back in the civil rights movement, all those black activists are black nationalists, or all the communists, all the socialists are like Stalinists. Like there are these labels that we put on people, right? And like, yeah, but when you read about it, there is a nuance. Like, I even remember this one time we did a May Day march, and a Proud Boy came alone with a knife, and then he helped out the march, and no one really paid him any mind. They were kept like, they watched him and stuff. But then, I mean, I ended up talking to him just out of curiosity, like, why are you here? What are you doing? And people will say, oh, they're lying, they're disingenuous, they're just trying to push their movement, or they're not lying and they're just different and they don't adhere to whatever it is. But it's like, when do we hear people out? It's like, it's just like, like this saying, pearls before swine. Like, this is I just feel like you entertain someone up to the point that you think they're honest, but once they're disingenuous or they're not listening, you can let go of them.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think in this particular case, you'd have to show that this guy was lying, that he has ulterior motives, that like literally his group doesn't exist and doesn't have these anti-racist, or these like pro-LGBTQ views, right? Anyway, so I'm done.
Well, I think there's also a difference between, just maybe my last point here, like, when we're talking about like reaching out, are we talking about like, there's a difference between like working together with someone and like, trying to educate someone. And so in this case, I think, like we should be like as progressives, as activists, as organizers, like we should always be growing. We should always be reaching out to people. We should always be educating people about like, you know, Marxism and like, you know, all the capitalism and literally like healthcare and, you know, living wage, all these issues. So like you should be able to have these conversations with anyone. Like it doesn't really matter what label they, you know, they give on to themselves. Like you should be able to have that conversation with anyone. I think it's different when you're like actively being like, hey, these like Nazis believe this one thing and we hate 90% of their stuff, but this one thing, come over, join our club. Like that's different. Like now you're talking about an organization.
Yeah. Or like
you're not talking about once again, you're talking about an institution. You're not talking about an individual and like the ability to connect one-on-one with this individual and like convince this individual that racism is fucking bad and like that your grievances against the government are probably like, you know, maybe maybe not ill-founded, but like maybe they're just, you know, based on some alternative reality that you've been suckered into. So yeah, that's what I would say. I think it's important to have conversations with everyone, but if you're gonna give people a platform like Jimmy Dore did, like I think you owe it to your own viewers to like hold those people accountable as well and to like call them out on the reality, like provide that context. Don't just like mask over it and pretend that these are not like very highly dangerous people who want to murder Black people and people of color. Like this is part of who they are. You can't just ignore that.
I mean, but there's debate within the community and between academics. I did a lot of research on this subject about the Boys. And while there is a Nazi element in their movement, it's not crucial to the ideology. The ideology says that under the oppressive government, eventually there'll be a civil war or some kind of social conflict, which is like, I mean, isn't that human history?
Yeah, but then also they're, you know, like what is it, like what they have to say in order to get sworn in to the gang, and also like, you know, get beat up until they can say 3 cereals or whatever the fuck by their peers, as they say, like I am a male Western chauvinist and I do not apologize and or something, which is basically, you know, spitting in the face of, you know, a lot of social justice kind of.
Yeah, but then you're talking about a particular group.
Western society, many people say, is, you know, is like another word for white supremacists.
Yeah, but I'm just pointing out, like, we're going to get in trouble when we start doing this. Like, this is why the ACLU protects, like, Nazis' free speech.
Yeah, and
because free speech isn't, like, literally going out and threatening violence. That's not free speech. The ACLU protected the free speech because they know that it'll come back and be used against us. And there's this crazy example where the socialist, world socialist guy came on Jimmy Dore's show celebrating Trump's censorship. And then a few days later, their website's gone. All their shit's gone. Because now all the tech companies know, hey, as long as someone says that's violence or that's anti-whatever, that's dangerous, you can be banned at will. So that's what we're
I think Nazis have a right to free speech. I think I have a right to punch them in the face, and then I have a right to be arrested and have, you know, like, there are consequences to your actions. Like, you can say whatever you want, and you're going to piss off people, and there are going to be repercussions, right? Like, I mean, like, I don't think, like, once again, the free speech thing, I don't see how that, like, impacts. Like, Jimmy Dore can talk to whoever he wants, and I have a right to criticize Jimmy Dore for how he interviews them. Like, you know, like, he has that right to do it, and there are repercussions to it. And like I said, I think he would owe it to his base to provide a more contextual like interview rather than just a platform for them to normalize. I mean, the normalization of these hate groups is dangerous, right? It doesn't mean. I mean, yeah, they have the right to free speech, and you know, we should be wary about normalizing that.
Oh, no, it's dangerous. I totally agree. He should have done more journalism. But this guy, like I said earlier, he said they're not racist. The group he's in. The reason he had him on the show is because Jimmy randomly saw a speech he did in front of the state building that was basically calling for left-right unity or something. He's like saying all this social conflict is not the problem. It's the symptom of the oppression from the top down, right? So Jimmy saw this and says, let's bring this guy on. Yeah, he should have done better journalism. I think he should have grilled him more. But the guy's literally saying, we're not racist. We're friendly to LGBTQ. On all, like, you've met these libertarians that are left on social issues, right? And that's exactly who this particular group is. But
and that's
yeah,
the problem. Like you're taking one individual, or Jimmy Dore is, and trying to like blanket, like normalize everybody else. Like, we found one person.
But Jose, if you watch the video, he short-circuited that by addressing that in the beginning of the video, saying, but that's where I'm criticizing him. He should have done more journalism. Instead, he said, I don't know much about this group, but here's a guy. These are his own individual opinions. It's not representative.
All right. Well, Dylan, please find a Proud Boy that so that we can since
bring a Proud Boy on the show next week,
and then we can talk to them, and then we can see how much we have in common as opposed to I don't think so. You might think so, but that's like it is what it is. But here's what I'll say, and I think just to kind of perhaps wrap it up is that
wasn't I mean, okay, go ahead.
Is that like. I'm.
You just like call me a Nazi right now, just because I differ with you. That was a disingenuous thing you just said to me.
I did not call you.
But yeah, you basically said you go find a fucking Proud Boy because I watched the interview and you have an opinion without watching it.
I said go find a Proud Boy and we can interview them. We've interviewed Ceci Iglesias on the show. I don't agree with them. I'm not calling you. That was not what
I'm just saying you're being really dismissive.
I'm not being dismissive. I'm saying like you agree that person is and based on that interview, that this whole larger movement is not what.
That's not what
I believe that what it is, but I believe differently. I believe that they are actually murderous and want to attack.
Well, I think maybe it would be productive for you guys actually.
There's been on video attacking black and brown people. Like I'm not just bringing it out of my fucking ass. Like these people are very problematic in the movement, and they would fucking very easily beat my ass because they called me an anarchist. I've seen many videos about that. So I'm not here to like play nice and say like, oh, can we all just get along? Like some of us can't get along. And what I wanted to say was that I just talked to a Trump supporter the other day, or I worked with that person. That man was very respectful to me. Like, and I'm not saying like I'm dismissing everything else that he believes in or that Trump believes in, but I would much rather work with that person that treated me with respect and dignity than I would with some of these far leftists that would very soon cancel me. And so I'm with this concept that we should reach across. We should talk to people even that when we strongly disagree with each other. But then also there's just differences of how we think that they are either a problem individually or a problem collectively. So that's I think what I'm getting at.
All right. Well, I kind of feel like we agree on this, so I don't know why it's become so contentious, but
yeah.
I mean, you'd have to look into this thing, and I'm not saying I know one way or the other. I'm just saying I'm leaving an open mind, and I'm not willing to just write some. I just feel like isn't the left been subject to this kind of shit historically? They just say you're a communist, you're written off and canceled. But it's like I'm not saying like we have to go embrace a bunch of fucking Nazis, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and I apologize if you thought that I was like,
No, I misspoke when I said you called me a Nazi. I meant to say that.
Perhaps I was dismissive, and that's but yeah, like again, we've interviewed people, and we should, and I think that's people like Ceci that we very much are not with, but we were able to have a civil conversation, and I think that's important as we agree to disagree and not normalize each other, but like call out the very huge differences while figuring out in which ways we might work towards a place where we might get them out of the Proud Boys, or like the black man that his job is to get black people or white people out of the KKK. Like I think those are the kind of things, as opposed to punching Nazis, which I don't agree with, but it's Socrates' right to do so. And
it's my right to get arrested for doing so.
And suffer the consequences.
Yeah, man. All right.
Woo!
Oh yeah, I got.
Ow! Okay, got heated, baby. Okay, but yeah, good times.
Socrates, on a lighter note, you are a DJ. What is your DJ name? And where can people find your cool jams sessions when they do?
My DJ, my alter ego is Robert De Niro, like not Robert De Niro, Robert De Niro with a very Anglo accent. And just go to robertdeniro.com. And I'm going to be doing some it's not just the DJ stuff. It's more like just any like creative musical thing that I do. I'm going to kind of put out under that name. And so some DJ stuff, I'm working on some kind of like weird, like cinematic, like instrumental music. And then I'm also trying to do a podcast I want to start up to just kind of talk about music and artists that like independent artists that, most people have never really heard of, and why I personally kind of like them. And I think it's just a cool opportunity to showcase music that most of us never really had the opportunity to listen to, because there are so many vibrant music scenes all around the country and all over the world, and most of us just hear a very small percentage of it. So hopefully I want to try to like collaborate with other people that I know and kind of start sharing some of those artists as well and have them on as guests.
Yeah, that sounds great. We used to do that. We should do that.
Yeah, you should do it.
Yeah, well, hopefully. We had somebody recently talking about frog medicine. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard of that. That was
Frog Mason?
Frog medicine. Like it's like
Oh.
it's a
Frog venom. Yeah.
frog venom that they put on their body, and it.
Yeah, to trip, to hallucinate.
Yeah.
Yeah, you like sweat, you like puke, you like just diarrhea, everything.
Oh, you know the whole deal then already.
It's a cleanse. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you know a guy, let us
really?
know. Let us know.
I'll find one around. I'm sure I can find one around Louisiana.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for being on the show. Socrates, always great speaking with you. Have fun, and NOLA, stay safe. Yeah, take pics. Yeah.
Maybe we'll see. What happens in NOLA stays in NOLA. But yeah.
Damn. Hey, I've been there, and that is a fact, Jack. Love it. Can't wait to go back.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. This is great. Always good to talk to you guys.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
Peace, brother.
Cool. See ya.
The conversation continues. This could be the most heated debate between Dylan and Jose. Legendary line, you just called me a Nazi. That's definitely gonna...
Jose Gloria said, and I quote, Dylan Thompson, you are an effing Nazi.
You are a fucking Nazi. Yeah, no, that's gonna be in the clips for sure. But
oh, gosh.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel like these are conversations that need to be had, right? I mean, even if they are heated, like, because I'm all for everyone just doing something. Like, I guess I agree with you on that point, a big deal, like, you can't just complain. You got to oppose and propose, right? Like, we got to figure out what to do, and there will be conflicts on the left. Like, we will have interests. We are fighting for people to join our causes, but like, man, we gotta find out how to reduce that tension as much as possible and work in parallel as much as we can. But there will be tension. So
yeah, no, I agree. Passionate, like table thumping, like speech and all these things, and and then of course cooler heads prevailing, and figuring out perhaps in ways in which we were misinterpreted, or we didn't articulate our thoughts in the best way, or just figure out like just the common ground, and differentiate that between those places where we're not going to have common ground, and saying that that's okay. And I'm really want to be a part of that culture, the one that doesn't just dismiss and marginalize and excommunicate people because they didn't use the right word, or didn't use this, or are not completely on board with whatever it is that your people are proposing as to be the right way, or the best way. So that's part of like this conversation. It's yeah. So with that, this is the kind of things that we bring here on It's Happening show. So yeah, man.
oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
Legendary show.
Legendary, sure. Shout out to Timothy Cotran, comrades, not me, us. Absolutely, not me, us, man. Movement never ends. Felicity Figueroa, exciting. Hi, Felicity. Happy belated birthday. You are my favorite. What is it? My favorite Latina white lady. Yeah. Honorary Chilanga. Mexican white lady Felicity. Good stuff. Ellie Diaz, Eli, Caleb Wilson, everybody that tuned in. Donna, Gabby. Yeah, I'm glad that everybody tuned in. So yeah, what are you thinking, Dylan? We had a little bit of rain. I hope you enjoyed it. Not gonna have
a little bit. It's too cold.
Too damn.
It's too cold to enjoy, especially 'cause it becomes a swamp cooler outside on top of everything. So
Yeah. Are you gonna get the vaccine anytime soon?
I'm not eligible. So yeah, I wasn't really even planning on it. But
Oh, anti-vaxxer.
yeah, I'm just not protesting yet.
Yeah, you're like, I'm gonna be going to Angel Stadium pretty soon. And like,
Oh my god.
no microchip for my children.
I mean, I gotta find something to do, but probably not that. Yeah, it's weird how do we continue in the COVID age as well, you know?
Yeah, man. All right. Well, yeah, totally and truly. How do we continue? Hopefully, in the best way possible. Building small groups of comrades that will be able to keep you sane, keep you safe, and keep you motivated and inspired to continue to fight for a better world. Because it's in that sense, we are playing the long game because hopefully we'll have a long life to do these things. So yeah. Final comments, Sir Dylan, before I wrap it up?
Yeah. Man, we we gotta find a way forward. But yeah, I mean, I really I'm a little worried about like Joe Biden in a sense that like it's great to see all these like executive orders and a bunch of great things. I actually looked at the list and I'm like, hard to argue with a bunch of these things, but in a way, it's kind of like we're back to where Obama was in a sense in a lot of things, which was kind of a continuation of a problematic trajectory in the first place. So it's positive, but we can't be complacent, I guess. And yeah, I guess that's it.
Agree. Absolutely. Yeah, don't be complacent, don't be apathetic, keep motivated, keep inspired, keep being inspired and inspiring other people. Yeah, it takes a village, in the great words of Dylan Thompson, and also in the great words of from the Bible, the Jose Gloria quotes. It's the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. So pick up a shovel, help us get ourselves out of the crap that we ourselves put ourselves in, and it took us years to get ourselves in it. It might take us years to get out, but life is a struggle, but we must never give in, says Pato Banton. So I'll dedicate this show, homegirl Miriam Lopez. Rest in power, sister. You're amazing. You're loved. El corazón de Santana, the heart of Santana, because she was a beautiful person that gave her all, fought every day, and got along with everybody. And that's really, really freaking rare in this world and in this city. So yeah, just bringing people together, fighting for the little person, and never tiring, and always willing to help, lend a helping hand. Those are the kind of young people that we need to, to bring up in our society, because yeah, the children are the future, and if we have more people like her, then the future will be a much brighter place, and what we need in order to survive. So. Shout out to her and all her family, friends, and loved ones. This one goes out to her. So from Dylan Thompson, and I want to thank Edgar Silva for being an awesome audio video engineer.
Of course.
And Media Ironline Studios. Cop that. So here, Dylan Thompson, Jose Gloria, and all of us here at It's Happening Family, we are signing off.
It's happening.
Para no ver lo que es verdad, te han engañado, no es libertad, lo que tú vives es vulgar, ser un esclavo sin descansar mientras que el burgués se aprovecha de tus labores, hay que luchar para vencer este sistema.